Thank you for watching. The cases we've explored today show the unimaginable impact of crime on victims and their families. These stories remind us of the resilience of survivors and the importance of justice. Stay tuned for more, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on similar cases. What happens when a murder-for-hire plot goes wrong, like in the case of Diana Lovejoy, a YouTuber who conspired to murder her ex-husband in California?
We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Diana Jean Lovejoy, guilty of the crime of conspiracy to commit murder.
Reports suggest that in 2016, Diana Lovejoy hired firearms instructor Weldon McDavid Jr. to assassinate her ex-husband, Greg Mulvihill. Lovejoy and Greg were reportedly going through a bitter divorce and custody battle at the time. McDavid allegedly lured Greg to a secluded area in Carlsbad by pretending to have information that would help him with the case against Lovejoy. But when Greg arrived at the scene, several shots were fired at him, and his friend called 911.
Hello, this is 911.
Yes. My friend has just been shot.
Do you know who shot him?
There's a guy lying down like a sniper.
A sniper? Did you see him at all?
Briefly, we saw the gun, and he shot at us like 6 or 7 times. My friend's getting lightheaded.
That's okay. I got paramedics en route, okay? I have officers en route. I got help out to you, okay?
When police arrived, they found Greg in his car, bleeding out. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, where he survived. Police learned that the call McDavid made to lure Greg came from a burner phone, which had been purchased by Lovejoy 2 weeks before the shooting. She also allegedly paid the assassin $2,000. Lovejoy was arrested and charged with attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. At her trial, Greg took the stand and described the chilling moments right before he was shot.
After the second time of shining the light on it and staring at it for a second, I realized I was looking at a barrel and a scope.
Eventually, the jury found Lovejoy guilty of all charges. This is when things got crazy.
We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Diana Jean Lovejoy, guilty of the crime of conspiracy to commit murder.
All right, we're going to need to take a break. So and if we could have the jury go back.
Lovejoy collapsed out of shock and was sent to the hospital.
Lovejoy was unconscious for a time, then taken to a hospital for treatment.
A few months later, Lovejoy was back in court for her sentencing, where she made an emotional plea to the judge.
I still care about Greg, and as much as I did love him. I loved him a lot, and I really cared about him, and I still care about Greg.
Ultimately, Lovejoy was sentenced to 26 years to life in prison.
6 years to life.
And as for McDavid, he received a sentence of 50 years to life, while Diana Lovejoy collapsed in court after learning her fate. Like in the case of Zachary Wester, who was charged with racketeering and false imprisonment in Florida.
The drugs were there. I did not put the narcotics there.
As per reports, the 28-year-old former sheriff's deputy, Zachary Wester, was accused of planting drugs on unsuspecting motorists during traffic stops.
Seriously. Hey, man. Go ahead and put your hands. Don't. At this point, you are detained, okay?
I don't do anything. Okay. I don't mess with that stuff.
If the drivers denied knowledge of the drugs, they were arrested anyway.
The syringe is actually in like a plastic, larger baggie with a plastic container with a substance in it that appears to be an illegal narcotic. Do you know anything about that?
I do not.
Some of Wester's victims had other prior offenses, which made the alleged possession charges even more serious.
Look, man, you seem like you're pretty squared away, okay?
Yeah.
All right. But I do have an issue with something within the vehicle.
What's that?
Pulled you over. Your driver's license is not valid. Okay? Pulled you out to talk to you about it.
And for the poor souls who resisted and protested their innocence, Wester used his taser on them.
Invasive, I'm sending y'all hell away here just now if he didn't have anything. That was a slick move, man. Very slick.
Hey, man.
Go ahead and put your hands on. Do not do this.
That's right.
That ain't mine, man. What you talking
about? Don't just
After a while, the arrest caused suspicion internally.
Began what's called an internal affairs investigation into the defendant's use of his body cameras.
Wester was suspended from the sheriff's department.
First, he made the recommendation that the defendant be suspended pending the outcome of the investigation.
The case went to trial, where Wester pleaded not guilty to all charges.
This is a case about an abuse of an incredible power. The defendant used his position as a deputy sheriff to make traffic stops on 12 members of this community and plant methamphetamine in their cars, methamphetamine and paraphernalia. He turned what should be a law enforcement agency, and is, into something for his own use that was criminal.
Some of Wester's body cam footage was found mysteriously deleted or unusable.
Why in the world would that have been deleted? I wish I knew that answer.
However, the prosecutor found something suspicious in one of Wester's body cam footage.
Why in the world does the defendant have palmed in his hand, which is clasped like this, not like this, not like this, like this, a plastic baggie? Why in the world does he have that there? I would submit that this is objective evidence where you see him planting drugs in the moment. You see something in his hand that has no reason, no logical reason, given this stop and what we know about it, for it to be there. This is him planting evidence, and you see it.
Wester's victims testified in court.
I knew the truck was cold. I knew it was.
The white, small plastic baggie that was in that spoon that the deputy just showed you on this video. Had you ever seen that before?
No, sir.
Was that in your car?
No, sir.
The only thing I really saw was the fact that he did keep going into the car like several times, over and over and over again. Because he'd come back, he'd talk to me, he'd go back to the car, he'd come back to me, he'd go back to the car.
Count 1, guilty of racketeering as charged. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Guilty of official misconduct related to Teresa Odom as charged.
Wester was sentenced to 12 years in prison.
The drugs were there. I did not put the narcotics there.
How does it compare to attacking your lawyer in court?
Stop. You went off on your attorney, Taylor. You went crazy on your attorney.
This is Taylor Schaab, a murder suspect in Wisconsin. As per reports, 25-year-old Shabies killed and mutilated Shad Theien in a drug-fueled intimate act. 24-year-old Shad was strangled with a metal chain, and his dismembered body was found in his mother's basement. Shabies left his severed head in a bucket and other body parts in a storage tote, plastic bags, and cardboard boxes.
There was remains, 2 different specific types of remains that I observed.
What kind?
There was a human head. There was genitalia in the bucket.
Shad's mother was the first to discover her son's remains.
You kind of came upon the bucket, happenstance kind of, right?
Right.
So then you took the towel off?
I did.
Shabies later admitted that killing Shad wasn't the only thing she did to him.
I put the in there.
You driving on?
Yeah,
Did you ever put his in your Okay, you just trying on? So when did you start, cutting up his body?
Almost right away. I was sucking and cutting at the same time.
She was arrested and charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilation of a corpse, and third-degree assault. During a court appearance, Shabies shockingly attacked her lawyer.
Stop it. Stop it. Rachel, call.
She had to be pacified by 2 court officers.
You went off on your attorney, Taylor. You went crazy on your attorney.
Slammed Shabusiness, telling her there's no excuse for her cowardly actions.
If you take the path to go get the help, you wouldn't be in this situation right now. None of us would be in this situation. But to take the cowardly path that you did and to make other people suffer because you were suffering is pretty shitty.
Kelly said he wished death in prison for Shabies and hoped she'd meet the same fate as her idol, Jeffrey Dahmer.
I will pray that you meet the same fate as your idolistic Jeffrey Dahmer. So have a good life, business.
Michael Theien, Shad's father, said he forgave Shabies for what she did to his son and hoped she would use her time in prison to become a better person.
Taylor, I just wanted to say that I forgive you for what you've done to my son. And Yeah, you made a bad choice, and now you have to live with it.
Judge Walsh said that this crime offends human decency.
And I'm going to ask the judge if he can, if she can see the streets again sometime, It may not be soon, but I believe everybody makes bad choices, and maybe not to this scale, but I think there's a lot of hope for you.
This crime offends human decency, it offends human dignity, and it offends the human community.
Taylor Shabbos was later found guilty on all counts and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
The decision of this court and the judgment of the law that Ms. Shabbos be sentenced as follows. Count 1, that's the first-degree intentional homicide as a repeater. It's a Class A felony. Life imprisonment without the possibility of extended supervision.
Taylor Shabbos' trial was filled with blood-chilling moments, but how does it compare to taking your own life in court? This is Michael Moraine, an ex-Wall Street trader who was accused of arson in Arizona in 2008. Moraine bought a $3.5 million mansion but could not afford the mortgage payments and tried to sell it at a charity auction. When no one bid on his house, he set it on fire.
Okay, and what's your emergency?
My house is on fire.
Are you going to be able to get out?
I've got one of those ladders.
You have a ladder where?
I'd rather work on that than talk to you, so let me get the hell out of here.
Moraine escaped the burning mansion using a rope ladder and scuba gear. He later relived the dramatic escape from his hospital bed.
Had some air left in that tank, and that's what enabled me to get back to the window and deploy that ladder. If I hadn't had those two things, we wouldn't be talking.
Phoenix Fire Department investigator Jeff Peabody believed Moraine had intentionally set fire to his house. Moraine was arrested, found guilty of arson, and sentenced to 21 years in prison.
We find the defendant, Michael James Mayer, guilty of arson of an occupied structure.
As the verdict was read, Moraine appeared to put something in his mouth. Moments later, he started having seizures and ultimately collapsed in court.
No. Now seeking fire the suspects down.
Marin was taken to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead. An autopsy confirmed that he had ingested cyanide. Investigators also found a canister labeled as cyanide in his car and a delayed email from Marin to his son containing details about his will and his car. Marin's death, caught live on camera, was a truly shocking courtroom moment. But how does it compare to the antics of a cold-blooded murderer like Scott Nelson? This is Scott Nelson, a murder and kidnapping suspect in Orlando, Florida.
I am a homicidal maniac. He lit a firecracker. He lit a bomb.
55-year-old Scott Nelson, an ex-convict, decided to rob a wealthy homeowner in Winter Park, Florida.
Wasn't particularly happy with this. Sure. See, these people in Winter Park, for instance, right? They have everything but they have beautiful homes and beautiful cars and golf courses. I'm walking down the street while all these rich people are walking around buying jewelry and they're having their good life and all this stuff and wouldn't give a rat's about me.
According to reports, Nelson broke into the house on September 27, 2017, and encountered Jennifer Fulford, the nanny of the homeowner's children. When Jennifer went missing, her employer reported her disappearance to 9/11.
My nanny is missing. This is what's unusual is her purse is here.
Okay.
Her car's gone, her purse is here, and nobody's heard anything from her since 11.
Nelson kidnapped Fulford at gunpoint, binding her with zip ties and duct tape that he had purchased earlier. He then forced her to withdraw money from her account at an ATM. Later, he drove her to a vacant lot, where he stabbed her multiple times in the chest and back, leaving her body there. In court, Nelson shockingly blamed society and the government for his actions.
Once you kick a dog enough times, they tend to bite back. And really, they just don't care anymore.
Tell us about your plan.
My plan was to get some money. He lit a bomb. He knew it too. And they laugh about it after. That's what corrections does. That's what the government does. That's all they've ever done to me. They've turned me into an animal.
Nelson went on to chillingly describe his crime.
Who killed Jennifer Fulford?
I did.
Did she appear to you to be terrified?
I'm sure she wasn't happy.
You've had a knife this whole time, right?
I think I left it in the vehicle, and then I had to go back and get it, I guess. Should I have dropped her off in front of
He also openly admitted to kidnapping and murdering Jennifer Fulford.
Leave her there. Not to kill her, to leave her there.
Why did you bind her hands behind her back?
I would imagine so that she couldn't leave.
Why did you wrap it so tightly that she couldn't breathe?
I didn't do it that tightly.
He further claimed that the police did a poor job of catching him.
Got me here. I gave it all to you.
Stating that he ultimately turned himself in rather than being apprehended. During the penalty phase, Nelson asked the jury to sentence him to death, stating that he was a lost cause.
I am a homicidal maniac.
Mr. Nelson, do you want to be sentenced to death?
Yes.
The jury recommended life in prison without parole for Nelson, citing his history of abuse, mental illness, and brain injuries as mitigating factors. The judge agreed and sentenced him to life in prison. Nelson's cold and calm confessions of his crimes became a truly viral courtroom moment. That concludes today's look into some of the most shocking and dramatic courtroom moments. From chilling confessions to unexpected outbursts, these cases remind us of the unpredictable nature of justice. Be sure to subscribe for more updates on gripping legal stories, and don't forget to like and share this video if you found it compelling. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. They were nothing compared to the utter mayhem caused by 35-year-old Granville Ritchie.
Today, a judge upheld a death sentence against Granville Ritchie. He's convicted of and murdering a 9-year-old girl.
Granville Ritchie is in court for multiple crimes, including kidnapping and murder. In May 2014, 9-year-old Felicia Williams went missing after her neighbor and godmother, Ebony Y, invited her friend Granville over to her house. The police were notified, and both Granville and Ebony were brought in for questioning.
Any idea where this girl may be?
I wish I know.
Can you tell me how you told us?
The house that is standing now, and if you look to the left, I used to stay in that house.
However, the next day, the body of the girl was washed up on Tampa Bay. The police intensified their investigation, and Ebony and Granville were brought in for questioning again.
That room, man, that little girl was gone.
Did he tell you to say that he wasn't there? To say that his mom was there?
Yes.
Why lie?
I got scared.
Forensics and investigations pointed to Granville, and he was arrested. Now in court, the prosecution addresses the court.
And then he took Felicia's lifeless, nude body and he threw it like someone would throw a bag of garbage.
Followed by the state attorney.
Felicia Williams' life meant less to this man than his sexual desires to violate her.
The prosecution argued that all the evidence pointed to Granville and called on their main witness.
And it was like, what you lied about? I said I left her with Trevor, and he wanted me to go and get some weed for him. And then when I came back, she wasn't there.
They also revealed a 911 call from Granville's phone, which they stated must have come from the girl.
911.
Then, they rested their case.
Ultimately, there was a person in between him and that little girl that he wanted to get alone so that he could do these vile things to her. To do that, he had to get that person out of the way. And even though these are violent, brutal crimes that he committed on this little kid, he didn't use violence to get that obstacle out of the way. He used deception, he used lies, he used manipulation.
However, Granville's lawyers disagreed with the prosecution.
When Felicia Williams is missing, there's no signs of a struggle in that apartment. There's no DNA evidence left by Felicia Williams that you would expect. No hair, no skin, nothing.
They called on their own witness.
Do you see any evidence in the autopsy report and the photographs that would suggest to you that a sexual assault, sexual battery had taken place in this case?
No.
They insisted that.
Granville Ritchie remains innocent.
Now it's time for the jury to give their verdict.
We, the jury, find as follows as to count one of the charge, defendants guilty of first-degree murder as charged.
But before the sentencing, the family members of the victim had the chance to address the court.
He discarded her like she was nothing. I've waited 2,310 days for this day to come. And I regret today is that I cannot ask for his fate. And that would be for him to be hung, for him to feel what my daughter felt.
It was an emotional moment, and the judge wasn't left out.
My heart breaks for you as a mother.
absolutely breaks for you as a mother.
However, the most shocking statement was from the victim's father.
I forgive you, bro. That's how strong my God is. I come in and smile at you today with no harm or ill will towards you. You my brother. You made a mistake. But you got time. You got time to get right with God, bro. Because the journey you got ahead of you gonna need God.
Finally, it's time for Granville to learn his sentence.
Unanimously found that defendant should be sentenced to death. You will remain incarcerated until the date of your death is scheduled to occur. If you do ever pray to a higher power, either now or at some point before the date of your death is scheduled to occur, and you truly seek forgiveness and redemption for the sins and the crimes you have committed, I hope that you are granted it. And I do still see the humanity in you.
Granville showed no emotion and is currently awaiting his death in prison. Just when you thought you'd seen it all, another convict surpasses Granville's wild behavior.
County 911, where is your husband? Somebody I just want from. Hello?
Enter 21-year-old Jake Patterson, who is facing charges for kidnapping and murder. In October 2018, Jake kidnapped 13-year-old Jamie Lynn Claus from her family home and fatally shot her parents. Jake was obsessed with her and held her captive until January 10th, when she escaped. Following her escape, she reached out to kind strangers who called the police.
County 911.
Hi. I have a young lady at my house right now, and she says her name is Jamie Claus.
Okay, what's your address?
1-4. Jamie, do you know when he's going to come back?
Who's going to come back?
His name is Jake Patterson.
And she said, I am Jamie Claus.
Yes. She said, he killed my parents. I want to go home. Help me.
Ma'am, my deputy, she just wants you to lock.
Jake was later arrested. Now, in court, the judge explains his situation.
Understand that if the court felt justice required, I could impose 2 life sentences consecutively with a 40-year sentence consecutive.
Yes.
Knowing that, do you still choose to plead guilty? How do you plead to that charge?
Guilty.
Even in court, his obsession with Jamie didn't reduce.
As he was led away, Patterson turned and said, "Bye, Jamie."
Next, it was time for the victims to tell him how they felt.
This monster, Jamie won't have her mom and dad at her dance recitals.
Now, Jake addresses the court.
I would do, like, absolutely anything to take back what I did, you know. I would die.
Before I did this, I planned on taking multiple girls, killing multiple families. I wanted to treat them differently, play mind games with them. I also just wanted to scare people. I hated everyone, but no one in particular.
But before he learns his fate, the judge speaks directly to him.
I've been a lawyer for almost 40 years and a judge for the last 16 years, almost entirely in this county. And these crimes rank as the most heinous and dangerous that I have seen either here or anywhere else in the state of Wisconsin. Not only were you a danger to the Claus family, you are an extreme danger to the public in general. There is no doubt in my mind that you are one of the most dangerous men to ever walk on this planet.
Finally, he learns his fate.
Regarding the first-degree intentional homicide of James Claus, I sentence you to life imprisonment without the eligibility for release on extended supervision.
Just when you thought Jake couldn't sink any lower, their behavior in prison will leave you stunned.
Other inmate jumps towards Patterson, who backs up, and then throws a punch.
Fortunately, a prison guard intervened.
Small door pops open from the prison guard bubble, and a guard extends an orange-colored beanbag shotgun and fires a round, hitting the railing. The 2 men separate and then lay on the ground.
Jake is still serving his sentence in an outdated prison in New Mexico. While it was clear that Jake wasn't happy to spend the rest of his life